Okay, we're going to add on to our sports stats notes. We're going to do some simple interest. So simple interest is the money earned or owed for the use of money. So what that means is, if you're going to buy a car, a lot of people don't have cash to buy a car or a house. So they add something called interest on it, and that's the money that you have to pay because someone is loaning you the money. So there's different types of interest, but we're going to stick with simple interest. It's pretty basic. The formula is right here. I stands for the interest that is earned. Like if you're putting money into an account and you're earning interest, you get they pay you to put your money in because then they can use your money to loan it out to other people, so you get money. Or your money owed, when you have to take out a loan. The money that you either borrow or that you invest is called the principal. Okay, so that is the money that's borrowed or invested. Okay, there's always an interest rate at which you earn it. So this is the interest rate, and it's a percent, but you have to write it as a decimal. So remember, when we have a percent and we turn it into a decimal, we move it 2 to the left. The last variable is t, and that is time, and it's always in years. So if they said 6 months, you would use 0.5 for half of a year. All right, so we're going to find the simple interest on money that is invested or borrowed, one or the other. It gives an interest rate, and it tells how many years it's being, the loan is going over. And then it will tell you how much they earned, and then the final amount that you have. So like if this is money that you're investing, this is what you started with. You'll earn some interest, and when you put them together, that'll give you your final amount. Or if you were borrowing money to buy something, this is what you borrowed over the years. You're going to have to pay a little bit more, and then this would be the final amount that you paid, depending on which one it is. So if I'm doing interest, remember it's PRT. What that means is principal times rate times time. So I'm going to be multiplying these things together. The only thing is, remember the interest I said has to be turned into a decimal. So to turn a percent into a decimal, we would move it 2 places to the left, or you could divide by 100. If you did 5.5 divided by 100, it will move the decimal for you. So you can either move it in your head or divide by 100. When we were turning a decimal into a percent, we times 100. To go the opposite way, we divide by 100. So now we're going to multiply all of these things together. The 4,500 times the 0.055 times the 4.5 years. And this is money, so we should have 2 decimal places, so the nearest cent. And then my final amount is to take this plus what I borrowed, the 4,500. So I'm going to add the 4,500, and I end up with $5,613.75. So if this was like a loan you were taking out and you were borrowing $4,500 over 4.5 years, you would have to pay an extra $113. So that loan, or whatever it cost you at $4,500, is now going to cost you about $5,600. So it's going to cost you more. The reverse, if you were investing this much over 4.5 years, that's a nice chunk of change, a little extra money that you get in your account, in your investment. All right, so we're going to find the interest again. We're going to times it. We have to turn the percent into a decimal, and we don't drop any of those numbers off. We don't round them. We have to keep every single one of them from the percent. And then we're going to times it by the time. So we're going to do the 3680 times 0.0675 times 2.25, and we will get $558.90. We will add the initial investment of $36.80. So I will add $36.80, and I will get a total of $4,238.90. All right, let's find one more. 0.055 again. We're going to times the principal interest rate in years. 2543 times 0.055 times 1.75, and then I get 244.76. There's a 3 next to the 6, so I should round down, which means the 6 stays the same. So because it's money, I always have to make sure that I round to 2 decimal places. I will take that amount and I will add 2543 to it, and that comes out to 2787.76. All right, so sometimes we're going to find the interest just like this, and that's easy because you just have to multiply those 3 things together. But sometimes you're going to have to find the principal, like how much was invested, what was the rate, or what was the time. So we're going to use equation solving, right? We're going to do algebraic equations to help us solve and find the variables P, R, or T. So finding I was pretty easy because we just had to multiply the 3 things together. The final amount was just putting what you invested and adding it on to the interest. So now I want to find the annual interest rate. That's the R. If $1,600 is invested, well, what's invested, remember, it's the P. 6 years is the time, and this is the interest that is earned. So if this is my equation, I equals PRT, I have to replace the letters with numbers. There will be one variable left. So this is the interest that is earned. That goes in place of I. P is what's invested, that's $1,600. R is unknown, T is 6. So what happens here on, I'm going to move it over, on this side is that I have to do some simplifying. So because it's multiplication, I can do this in any order I want, which means I can just multiply these 2 numbers together, 1,600 times 6, and I'll get 9,600. So that's now 9,600 times R. And if it's algebra, we just put R. We don't have to do the dots, but I wanted you to see what we were doing here. Now, we've done equations like this where we're trying to find R, and we need to get rid of this number in front of it. Well, to do that, we said we would divide it by itself, but it's no longer balanced unless I divide on both sides. So what happens there is it crosses out. Here we have 456 divided by 9,600, and it comes out to this decimal. So remember, we said that R was the interest rate, which was the percent as a decimal. So if I want the percent, I then have to move that decimal over to, and I get 4.75%. What else could I do? I could have times it by 100 to get the percent as well. Miguel invests $1,200. So the investment is the P, the principal. The rate, 0.065. I'm going to change it now so I don't forget. How long is T until he earns this much interest I? Okay, so we're going to take our equation, I equals PRT. It looks like 195 is the I. P is 1,200. My rate of 6.5, here's the part where you have to be really careful. Don't forget to turn it into a decimal. Times T. So on this side, I want to make sure that I simplify. So I got 1,200 times 0.065. That gives me 78. So I have 78 times T. I'm trying to find T, so I've got to get it by itself. So I divide that by itself to get T alone, get 1 T. Whatever I do on one side of an equation, I have to do on the other side of the equation. So I've got 195 divided by 78. That gives me 2.5. So 2.5, 2.5 years. Kayla earned $1,680 over 3.5 years on an investment that had an annual interest rate of 6%. How much did she invest? So what she invested is P. This is how much she earned. That's the interest. This is the T. And then the rate is 6%. And I'm going to turn it into a decimal right away. My lights went off in my room because I was sitting too still. But I think we can still see this. All right, I equals PRT. I'll turn my light on. Let's see. Oh, that's a little better. All right, earned 1680. That goes in place of I. I don't know P. R as a decimal is 0.06. Time is 3.5. So on this side, we have to simplify. So I do 0.06 times 3.5, and I get 0.21 P. To get P to equal 1, I have to divide by the number in front of P, because anything divided by itself is 1. So now I have 1680 divided by 0.21, and I get 8,000. So $8,000 is the principal, which is what she invested.